Welcome to Build Your Dream Network. I'm Kelly Hoey. I see people struggling to connect effectively all the time, so I created this podcast to help you master your network building needs. Whether you're seeking a new job, looking for a promotion, or scaling your business, you need a network, and you're in the right place to get the advice you need. And don't worry, my advice is real, it's actionable and practical because it's the advice I follow and is what has transformed my career from the traditional to the unexpected. So let's get started. Let's talk ghosting. No, not in the dating context, but in the job search and networking arena. Ghosting, for those not familiar with the term, is when someone suddenly stops communicating with someone else without any advance warning and for no apparent or obvious reason. LinkedIn recently polled job seekers with a two-question yes or no answer survey, and 93% of the respondents answered yes to the question, have you been ghosted by a potential employer after an interview or after they contacted you for more information? 93%. Wow, a little bit overwhelming. I'm wondering if the high percentage reflects the volume of job applicants right now, or perhaps the long-standing corporate tradition of not responding to online job applications other than with a simple, "Your application has been received" message. Now, on the flip side, corporations are being ghosted by the applicants themselves. Peter Capelli, a management professor and director at Wharton's Center for Human Resources, points the finger at this new trend at employers themselves for this, long-standing tradition of not responding. Should we be surprised that job applicant behavior has gotten a little bit foul as well on all of this? So, anyway, we have now this problem. Whatever the reason, we now have this, we have this tradition, habit, a bad networking habit of ghosting. So, whatever the reason, if you're a job seeker, let me say this, being ghosted sucks. Being the one who is ghosting, however, is really bad networking form. If you're no longer interested in an opportunity, be professional, be polite, be honest. Maybe you applied for the job as a safety or plan B and no longer have a great interest. Perhaps you're temporarily ghosting one employer because you're waiting to hear from another. Whatever the reason, make a decision to be transparent and polite and provide the recruiter who continues to contact you regarding your interest in a job at their company, firm, or organization. Provide them with an answer. Years ago, as in back when my career started, and that is years ago, I followed up with an employer I did not accept a role with. There was no reason for me to do so. However, because I did, I kept the lines of communication open with that particular firm. And yes, 3 years after my initial application, there was a chance to explore career opportunities with that same firm again. If you ghost an employer, that ends, terminates, done, nada, never again, the prospect of the future when you might want to explore opportunities with them again. Now, let's talk about being ghosted now that we've talked about being the ghost itself. As for being ghosted, I like the advice dished out in the post, How to Handle Getting Ghosted During Your Job Search, and you'll find that on the Muse website. To summarize the advice, you have every right to be annoyed or pissed off if you've been ghosted in your job search. Just don't name names and post about it on social media. And while sending the traditional "I'm better off without you" email may work with our personal relationships, this is not the tactic to take with recruiters or hiring managers. And finally, keep the ghosting in perspective. Perhaps the company has a policy of only following up with their top 3 candidates, or maybe the poor HR team is overwhelmed with the volume of applications. And by keeping perspective, don't become paranoid the next time you apply for a job and the interviewer says, I'll get back to you. Besides the recommendations from the Muse website, I have some Build Your Dream Network recommendations for you on ghosting as well. My first recommendation is to politely follow up with an employer you anticipate hearing back from to let them know you remain interested in their position you've applied for. Second, reaching back out to an interviewer with updated information on your application is another tactic. Perhaps you've now completed an online course or received a certification that was in progress when you originally applied. Those are good reasons to reach back out if you've got some silence between when you were interviewed and today. So don't assume ghosting. Maybe they're busy, and send them a little more information. My final idea is to watch for updates on the company itself. Perhaps they've been acquired, reorganized, or downsized. And if any of these outcomes are happening, it could easily explain why you haven't heard back from the employer. In those instances, firing off a quick email to your contact to say, "I've seen the news," well, it exhibits empathy and understanding. These are characteristics many of us look for in colleagues and coworkers. So be sympathetic, as those two soft skills will take you a very long way in your career. Now, as for the Build Your Dream Network podcast, we're taking a hiatus. No, I'm not ghosting you. You can continue to send me your networking questions via my website, jkellyhoey.co, or ping me on Twitter at jkhoey. And the good news is, there are a year's worth of timeless networking tips to guide you while this podcast takes a break. Thank you for listening to Build Your Dream Network. Stay connected and don't miss a networking insight by subscribing to the podcast. And while you're there, I'd love you to rate and review the show too. Are you looking for more networking advice? Pick up a copy of my book, Build Your Dream Network. It's your guide to modern networking. I'd like to hear your networking questions, tips, and ideas. Connect with me via my website, jkellyhoey.co. You'll find links to all my social media accounts, plus a contact form to email me your questions. I'm Kelly Hoey, and I'll be back again next week to tackle your networking challenges.